What is up, everybody? Toothless here, and the Pirates Path event to get Edward is here. We're going to be going through what each shard will get you, how many points. We're going to calculate how many that you will need. We're going to be going through what the champion upgrades will get you. And before we get into that, be sure to collect your platform gift. If you're on Plarium, you get 4,500 points for free. We're going to go ahead and claim that. And at a first glance, it looks pretty expensive if you want to get the soul. But we'll have to see what the shards go for and what the points are and calculate it up. But this looks like it's going to be a pretty expensive event. Let's start out with an ancient. You get 300 points for an ancient, which seems to be pretty standard. So this may just be the standard points, but we'll see. We're going to be going through and putting in the points here. That way, at the end of it, everybody will have a screenshotable image of what's what. The void shards are worth 750 points. That's a pretty big step up from an ancient. It almost looks... We ain't seen problems with sacreds, but the voids might be the way to go if you're going to buy the points through shards. Looks like the cromwells are 1,800. So if an ancient shard is about $1.50 a piece, a void is about $3 to $4 a piece. Cromwells are like $5 to $6 a piece. It does escalate very well up to cromwells, but unless sacreds are just like an ungodly amount of points, it's looking like void or cromwells is going to be your best option. And like I said, we'll do the math at the end of all this. By the way, pretty unlucky on these pulls. 4.5. So yeah, the sacreds is not the way you want to go about this, considering they're about 20 bucks a piece. Let's see how much the champion upgrades are worth. We might ought to pull a couple of mystery shards so we can make sure we get 1 point at a time. Or 1 level. Okay. And it appears that mysteries are worth 3 coins apiece. One level on a 3-star champion is 4 points. Seven points on a 4-star. That's a pretty big jump. All right, let's do a 5-star. 14 on a 5-star. But there's a huge resource investment difference between a 4-star and a 5-star, and I would say probably more than a 90% increase. And then finally, let's see what a 6-star is worth. Well, that's going to give us more than 1. And a 6-star is 18. So yeah, it looks like upgrading 4 stars is going to be your best bet if you're getting points through leveling up champions. But yeah, so this looks to be the spreadsheet for the point system. Ancient shards are worth 300 apiece, voids are worth 750 apiece, problems are worth 1800 apiece, sacreds are worth 4500 apiece. A 3-star is worth 4 points per level, a 4-star is worth 7 points per level, a 5-star is worth 13 points per level, and a 6-star is worth 18 points per level. Now, just how many points are we needing to get the champion alone? Let's see. So you come down to here. This is where Edward is. You need 500. Shrink this up a little bit. Wow, what happened there? We'll have to keep maximizing shrink there. Okay. So we're gonna need to go 500 plus. Looks like we come all the way over to the left. It's 1,000. And then 4,000 for that energy down below it. 6,000 for the pellets event points. You get 80 of them. And I will say, it looks like if you're going to be going for the pellet soul, it's going to be very expensive. At least a lot of them are kind of mid-loaded here in the middle of the pack, but there are some at the very bottom, and you can only miss, I think, 250 points and still get the 5 stars. So if you're going for that, definitely make note of that. We come down to the 20 soulstone points, or whatever you call them, and that's 7,000. And everybody gets a key to start out with, so you don't have to worry about this key down at the bottom if you're only going for Edward. Excuse me. And then Edward himself is 60k. So you're looking at 78,500 points if you want to get Edward. Now, how many shards does that equate to? Well, it appears that for the money, voids are probably, void or primal, one of the two would be the best way to go for it. Let's divide by the voids first. You would need 104 voids to get that. That's pretty insane, actually. What about for Promos? You would need 43 Promos. Promos is looking like it might be the way to go, considering they're about $5 a piece, and you get it for less than half of the amount that it would be for Voids. Sacreds would be $17. Sacreds costs about 4 times as much as Promos. Sacreds is probably not going to be the way you want to go. But we'll still put that in there just so it's, in numbers here. Ancients just for good measure. $261, wow. And just to be clear, this can all be mixed. So you can do any mixture of these three, like you could do like 5 Sacreds, like 30 Promos, and like 30 Voids, or mix it up. But considering Ancients, pretty much the best packs that I see are normally like 80 of them for 100. You're going to be spending about $300 if you're doing it through Ancients. And it looks like you're going to be spending about $300 if you do it through Voids. But for Promos, it appears that you can get away with about $200. And Sacreds, gosh, that's going to be like $450 to $500 if you want to get just Edward alone. So, like I was insinuating, this is a pretty expensive event, but it does appear that, if you are going to go for it, Promos is going to be the way to go. And as far as just upgrading champions, since it's pretty obvious that the 4-star is the best bang for the buck on that, let's divide that by the 4-star points. You're going to need 11,214 levels. So if they go up to level 40, what would that even equate to? Let's just do 11,000 here. Let's see, how many points do we get for taking one all the way up to 40? 280. So divide that by 280. You're going to need to level up 280 level 40 champions if you want to be able to get Edward, which isn't as high of a number as I was expecting. I figured it was going to be in the thousands, but the math is there. You can't really argue with numbers. So you could probably do like 100 epics or something like that if you have enough brews. I'm not really recommending that you buy all the brews to do that, but between taking these to 40, ranking them up to 5-star, and all of that, you might be able to get away with, like, say, 154 stars, another 55 stars, and then a few 6 stars. But that's not going to be where the bulk of your points come from. That's just going to be kind of how you tidy off what would be left over from shards. And if you're going for the Soul Stone, the 5-star soul with it, you're going to get a key here, but you've also got to spend 15,000 more coins to get the mythical relics, which for the relics alone, that's not that bad. 15k points, so 30k points to get a guaranteed legendary, 20%, like 1 out of 5 to get a mythical. That's not that bad. And there's only 80 of the pellet points down here below that you actually need to use a key for. So if you're not going to go for Edward, you could just come down the middle here and get these 80 points and be okay. But to do the grand total, you would just basically multiply that by 2, so you would need 86 promos. I mean, you're looking at close to $1,000 if you want to do the whole event, which is pretty insane. But if you just want to get the tokens themselves, let's see what that would wind up being. Here we are at 500 again. And let's see if we have to do both of these now. So you can pick one on each side. You don't have to do all 4 to get access to this middle tier here. So 500 plus 1,000 plus another 1,000 plus 7,500. And then 12,000. And then you times that by 2, because you're gonna have to come down both sides of the trees here. 44K to get to the middle, and then you can use the free key you get, and then add another 6,000 on for the tokens there. So if you're only wanting to go for the pellet tokens, you can get away with 50K. And you really don't even need this bottom one because you can miss 250. As long as you're doing your events, you could actually get away with skipping this whole side because there's 240 points here. So if you're doing all of the other events, you could get away with like, what, 22K? So, 22,000 points if you're doing all the other events. But if you missed a few events, it looks like you're going to be stuck spending 44, if not 50,000 points. And if you want to go down here to get the champion and the soul, you're looking at another 13,000 for that, 60. And then you got to do the 15K to get that key. And then 1,000 for the key. And then we've already equated for the first top half. So then now we're over here. 13K and then 50 more. So the soul stone itself is 50K instead of 60. I didn't notice that till just now. And if you're already all the way down here, you might as well spend the other 15K to get. Well, what happened? My mask got all off here. Okay. Let's redo that. Why is it capping me out here? 113K. To get this entire middle layer and Edward. The soul anyways. I got an easier way to go about this. It was 73K to get down to Ed. was 22K to come down the second tree. Plus 50 would be 64K. $187. And that's if you're not getting the legendary book of 4-star basalt, which the 4-star basalt's nice, but who really cares on that? And then add the 15 for the mythical relic. But you don't have to do that. It's just if you've already spent that many points to come down, you might as well. So in order to complete everything on here, with the exception of the legendary book and the basalt, you're looking at 202,000 points. And since it looks like Trommels is the best source of points for this event, you're looking at 112 Trommels. So that's actually not, I mean, that's a lot, but it's not as much as I thought it was going to be. So for about $550 to $600 is what you're looking to spend if you want to do this whole event. And that's including the champion, the mythical relic fragments, the champion soul, and all the Pelops fusions. Yes, that's a lot, don't get me wrong. But I've seen some events in here that was in the thousands. And yeah, this one you could make it cost thousands if you're going with sacred shards. But you could probably do 500 and then equal out the rest on champion training, because the points for a 4-star chicken is actually pretty good considering the resource investment. But what I would recommend, and this is the path that I would take if I was going to go for just Edward. I would start here, come over to here, come down this middle path here. That would unlock this mid tree. Use your key here and come down to Edward. We'll add in the points into that bubble. We're gonna color code this. Now, if you want Edward plus the soul, you gotta come down this side as well. But you also would have to come over here, and I recommend taking the energy over the gems. I mean, the gems are nice, but I don't know. 25 gems is about 2/3 of an energy refill, and 75 energy is about, so that's pretty equal actually. So whichever one of these you want, it doesn't really matter. But then I would come down this side, take the basalt, take the Pelops points. I would take the Immortal Soul Stone over the 200, unless you just really want that eternal, like, you know, that is a fifth of the way there to an Eternal Soul Stone, so not bad. But if you're gonna go for the Soul Stones and the champion, you're gonna take this red path. And then lastly, if all you want is the Pelops fusions, you can come down here, come down here, come down here, and you could come over here and come down there. And just looking at the rewards on the table, that's probably what I recommend doing for that. And then use your key that you get to start out with and come down there. is a little bit harder to do in real time than I initiated. Apologies about if this is dragging out, but at least this is a good, accurate breakdown. And so if you just want the champion, you're looking at 78,000. If you want the champion plus the soul, 78 plus 60, that'd be 138,000. And if all you want is the Palace fusion tokens, it was what, 40k? Well, what did we say here? $50k if you want to go all the way down and get them last phase. That's what it was. With champ plus soul. And then just the champ. So this is the basically screenshot you can take to go off of where you need to go to get what. The blue line is going to be just Edward the champion. The red line is to get the champion plus the soul. And the highlight is just to get the Pelham tokens themselves. And the way it's looking, Void Shards or Promels is going to be Promels probably, because the Void is 3 and a Promel is 5, but you get almost triple the amount from a Promel as you would from the Void. That's going to be the way you want to go. I would say get Promels and champion training. And I mean, yeah, of course, if you've got other shards laying around, you can use them as well. But also, I recommend waiting till tomorrow. Well, I don't know, since we're doing this now, they may not have a champion chase this weekend. Regardless, this is the event, and it's looking like about 200 for Edward, about 150 to 180 for the soul. And then if you just want to do Palace, you could get away with around 100 probably. Not really much more I can say. Be sure you claim your stuff. And if you want Edward, which I feel like he's probably going to be a decent damage dealer, we can look at what he's going to do real quick. Is he a better Lord? I'm pretty certain. Yeah, there he is. His A1 is a triple hitter. Each hit has a 100% chance when booked to decrease in the target's turn meter by 15%. It will decrease the turn meter by 25% instead if the attack is critical. And it cannot be resisted if the champion's under a veil or perfect veil. So that's basically like a souped up allure A1. The A2 is an attack all enemy twice. The first hit steals all buffs from all enemies and decreases each enemy's turn meter by 20%. Cannot be resisted if the champion's under a veil. The second hit has a 75% chance, 100% when booked, of placing a sleep on all enemies for 1 turn, and this debuff will ignore any block debuff buffs if the attack is critical, and it cannot be resisted if the champion is under a veil or perfect veil. Finally, on the A3, attacks 1 enemy. Before attacking, puts a perfect veil on this champion as well as any other assassins on the team for 2 turns. And then it will ignore shield, stone skin, and block damage buffs, and then puts a block revive debuff on the target if it's killed. I'm not positive on the multipliers on that skill, but if the multipliers are good enough to actually kill somebody, that's going to be a pretty good skill. Like, I don't think he's going to be an S tier champion. He has the everything is permitted passive that all the other assassins have. And then the I guess, unique passive for this champion. Each hit inflicted by this champion has a 50% chance to place 100% ensnare on the target for 2 turns. I don't know about y'all, but ensnare when I'm fighting Leshen is kind of annoying. Leshen, the main boss from the Griforce, while he's not a hard boss, that ensnare debuff is pretty annoying. Whenever the champion kills an enemy, puts 100% ensnare on all other enemies for 2 turns and decreases their turn meter by 20%. That cannot be resisted if he is under a Veil or Perfect Veil. Also, this champion inflicts 20% more damage to targets who's under ensnare. And his base attack is 1575, which is not bad. It's a little bit above average. He's kind of squishy with 15k HP and 991 on the defense, which not like horribly squishy, but I guess kind of in line for a standard nuker. With the speed of 101, which is about average for this point in the game. His multipliers, if they're even halfway decent, he's going to be a great nuker. But at the same time, I don't really think he's anything special. I'm probably just gonna go for the Pelip tokens to get my 5-star soul for Pelips, because that magma shield on the party is actually something unique, whereas Edward, I feel like it's just basically another nuker. And the Assassin's Creed event was nothing like how the Turtles work together as a team. So I wish this event was for Bayek. I feel like Bayek, with his passive, wound up being the best champion out of the faction, but he should be. He's the Void Legendary. Anyways, I hope this video helps. Toothless out. Y'all have a great day.